Good morning. That was Gurgwala Dlamini. She has played the role of Rafiki on stages for The Lion King in London, on the North American tour, and most recently in the production in Las Vegas. And I'm really excited that she's going to be bringing her incredible performance right here for you in Singapore, which is great. Thank you very much to Tom Arasi. It's such a pleasure and an honour to be standing here on the stage at this beautiful new theatre, which I'm sure you'll all agree is an incredible building. It's very exciting. And we're really thrilled to be working with our partners at Marina Bay Sands and Base Entertainment to bring The Lion King here to Singapore in what will be actually its Southeast Asian premiere. My role here today is to tell you a little bit about the creative background behind The Lion King, to give you a sense of how this incredible production found its way from the screen to the stage. But in order to talk about The Lion King, I kind of first need to tell you a little bit about how Disney developed its own theatrical division. It was actually in the early 1990s. A group of creative executives from Disney came to Michael Eisner, who was then the CEO of the company, with the idea of bringing Beauty and the Beast to the Broadway stage. At that point, Beauty and the Beast was the highest grossing animated film of all time, and it seemed like it'd be the perfect way of Disney finally finding its way to Broadway. So the production was given the go-ahead, and it opened on Broadway in 1994 and was immediately a huge success. It ran on Broadway for 13 and a half years and has now been seen by people, I think it's over 27 million people around the world. It was actually in the summer of 1994, just after Beauty and the Beast had opened so successfully on Broadway, that it actually lost its crown as being the highest grossing animated film of all time to a new Disney film, and that film was, of course, The Lion King. So Michael Eisner went to Peter Schneider and Tom Schumacher, who were the executives in charge of the feature animation division, and they were also part of the new theatrical division, and he said to them, well look, now we have Beauty and the Beast so successful on Broadway, maybe our next show should be The Lion King. Well, Peter and Tom didn't really need to think about it for very long, and they immediately told Michael what they thought of his idea. They told him they thought it was a terrible idea. Like, for a start, in the film of The Lion King, there's no human characters, there's only animals. So what would you do? Would you dress them up in fuzzy, furry costumes? Didn't sound like a very good idea for Broadway. In addition, the story is set in Africa, so you'd need to find a way of recreating the African savannah and the Serengeti on stage. If you remember the film, there's a waterfall, there's a wildebeest stampede. It's just not possible to do that kind of imagery on the Broadway stage. Bad idea, it'll never work. And so they walked away from that meeting and didn't really think that much more about it. But then a couple of months later, the phone rang, and it was Michael Eisner, just checking up on how his Lion King stage musical was coming along. And they dodged the question a little bit, but then he initially said, you know what, I'm not asking you if you want to do this, I'm telling you, you have to find a creative way of doing it. And so Peter and Tom walked away from that meeting, and they sort of thought, well actually, maybe if you think about it in a different way, maybe it is possible to bring The Lion King to the stage. But what it would take is an absolute genius to make that happen. And that made Tom Schumacher think about an artist he'd worked with back in 1984, when he was working on the Los Angeles Olympic Arts Festival. And he thought that she was a bit of a genius. And her name was Julie Taymor. Now, Julie Taymor was, to say the least, a bold choice to direct a Broadway musical for Disney. In the 10 years since Julie and Tom had worked together, she had developed a formidable reputation as being one of the world's leading directors of avant-garde and sort of experimental theatre, a lot of opera, and what her incredible skill was in telling these incredible myths and legends using masks and puppetry and sort of interesting imagery to tell that story on stage. But she'd never directed for Broadway before. She'd never worked for a commercial organisation, and certainly not in an organisation like Disney. But Tom called Julie, and here's what she said, in her own words.
Disney calls me up and says, do you want to do The Lion King? And I said, well, I've never seen the movie, so first thing I better do is see the videotape. And I looked at the videotape, and I was very intrigued. The first thing always with me as a director, or as a theater maker, because I do various things in the theater, is what is the story? And can I invest myself in the story? Because I don't care how much money you give me or how much visual possibility there is or whatever. I really have to know that it is the story that is going to be guiding everything. So that is the main structure, that is the main substance, and upon which I can do all kinds of things.
Why do you like sculpting?
I like it because it's immediate. You don't have to worry about people's opinions. Psychology of actors, it's like, there it is, I do it, it's done, ta-da, you can see it. That's why I like it. It's a really good balance to the directing. To the directing, the planning, the budget meetings, the cuts, the human politics. Clay doesn't do anything but do what I want it to do. This is one of the dancing lionesses, and I was going to do all the lionesses like this one. This is a singing lioness, which is full head on top of a turban, but because they're so weighty when they're done, we decided to do the dancing lionesses on top of the heads rather than fully dimensional bowl-like ones, so that they would be much lighter. And then the dancers are able to go up the back and lift the mask right off their head, and they'll be extending them, and the silk that's attached to them will create the whole body of the lioness.
Well, in addition to the story of The Lion King, one of the elements that really attracted Julie to the project was the music that's featured in the film. Now, as you may know, the songs written for the film were composed by these two gentlemen, Sir Elton John and Sir Tim Rice. Now, they composed 5 songs for the film, one of which won an Academy Award. But as you may know, the average animated feature film only lasts for about 90 minutes, whilst the average Broadway show is closer to 2.5 hours. So to bring The Lion King to the stage, as well as expanding the story, there'd need to be new music written. Now, when Tom sent Julie the videotape of The Lion King, he also sent her a copy of a recording called Rhythm of the Pride Lands. Now, Rhythm of the Pride Lands is actually the CD you heard playing when you arrived in the theatre foyer today. That album was created after the film of The Lion King, and it took musical themes from the film and expanded them into full songs. And that was done by a South African composer named Lebo M. Now, Lebo you would actually recognise as being the voice that sings the beginning of Circle of Life in the film. He's an incredible South African artist, and his contribution to the production has really given it a really unique South African flavour. So much so that every production you see of The Lion King around the world features performers from South Africa. And in the show, they sing chants in a range of different African languages and dialects, including Zulu, Swahili, Xhosa, and of course Sotho. Indeed, when The Lion King opens here in Singapore, there'll actually be 30 South African cast members in the show, which will be really, really exciting. So Lebo worked with the multi-award winning composer Mark Mancina to write 9 new songs for the stage show. And we're actually going to hear 2 of those songs right now. First of all, we have Alexia Kadim, who played the role of Nala in the London production, and she's going to be singing Shadowlands for you. And then we have Jonathan Andrew Hume, who'll be singing Endless Night. Now, Jonathan, he actually currently performs the role of Simba in London, and he's going to be playing Simba when The Lion King opens here in Singapore next year. So please welcome them to the stage.